Welcome to episode 5. We were supposed to do some pre-planning, and I haven't done that for the life of me. We agreed to have 3 segments per episode for the time being. The first one being news, and I've had my head down doing work all of my Sunday, and I have not checked anything related to news, social media, nothing fun, no entertainment. I don't know what's happening in the world. There might be a hurricane in the next village, for all I know. I am just heads down right now on a Sunday. So if there's any news segment, it's all over to you, Dom.
Um, I don't have a news segment, but I was just looking this up real quick. I have a little bit of news about us that I find surprising was that one of our shorts got picked up and we got what, like 1,200 or 1,400 views. I thought that was pretty cool. So I don't know. I hope we picked up a couple folks that are now listening, and there's a bit of a dialogue that we can get going, because that's, you and I talked about this. One of the real motivators for us was to hopefully get involved in a conversation, right, with people so that we can talk through, various things that are happening, and our experiences and their experiences, and the little business marketing and sales mavens that we are. We were hoping, we'd kind of expand our network as part of this, right? Like, get to know some people. Especially, we've both been in this kind of EOS world for so long. We're looking to kind of branch out, and we're pretty excited about what's going on at Cardano and Singularity Net, something you're actually working on. And just so, um, yeah, I guess a little bit of news that I would have is that you can be in your third or fourth show, and your podcast and business partner Gav can totally do everything to try to fuck it up with YouTube and upload too many videos. But they'll still give you a little love and throw you out there, just out to the wolves. But no, I think what that also points to, and you know more about this than I do, but you got to make those shorts, right? You have to have that short form content these days, I think.
Well, YouTube realized that, first of all, Instagram was doing well with their short form portrait. Uh,
Mhm.
and then TikTok just was like growing exponentially, and YouTube cottoned on. And so now, yeah, our main full episodes don't yet have traction. They got like a few views, right? In comparison. But what I did was just took one of the episodes, segmented it into like 15 snippets versions, which is under 60 seconds, upload that to YouTube, and they recognize it as a short, and they publish it differently. It's portrait style. And they've got hundreds, up to now 12 or 1400 views for those shorts. And it's literally been like, this is the 5th day. We were just debating it. Is this the 4th episode or the 5th episode? Right. Um, we haven't been doing this for that long, and the numbers aren't like there, and we're not really clear on our agenda or the topics, the themes. We don't yet have an audience, but YouTube is already distributing our content and putting it in front of people. And that's remarkable.
Mhm.
Um, to go from 0 to now having views, and what we said the most difficult thing to do was pressing that record button.
Yep,
We've done it, and already we're starting to see something that we can call engagement and traction and views. So pretty exciting.
absolutely. It really speaks to something that I was starting to think about when you were talking about pressing the record button. Friend of mine's boss was really famous for just saying, "Do what's in front of you." A guy
Mm.
owned banks and auto auctions and all these big businesses. Was a multi millionaire, one of the richest people up in New England. And that was just his core philosophy and what his core piece of advice. When my friend was managed one of his auctions, and like, I don't know, I get all this stuff going on, this problem, that fire. He'd just say, "What's in front of you? What's the next thing? Do that. Start knocking things down, and order will kind of prevail." That doesn't mean act impulsively per se, but what's next? What's right there? Because that we see this a lot, but people start pre-worrying. They start projecting out into the future and creating scenarios out of thin air and get themselves worked up. That can lead to this sort of action paralysis where they don't know what to do. They don't do anything often, right? And it's like you start shadow boxing with ghosts. It's like, just do what's in front of you. Do the next thing. Like, don't overthink it. There's a lot to that. And for, two smart guys, I mean, I don't know about you, but this is something I had to learn over the course of my life, especially in business, was don't overcomplicate stuff. Like, action's important. Don't worry about making mistakes. There's very few catastrophic mistakes, right? They exist, but there's not a lot of things that you can do that are going to just end you, right? Outside of acting like an asshole, basically, right? And in that case, you're just an asshole anyway, so you probably didn't stand much chance. But you know, you can recover from mistakes, but you can't do shit if you're not doing anything, right? Nothing is the worst case scenario, right? You can't just sit around, or you can't just debate and philosophize. And we've talked about this a lot too. We've seen some of that in some recent situation.
Yeah, I want to hear your reflections. I got one interesting actually to extend on that. I totally agree. Analysis paralysis is a success killer.
Mhm.
Um, what's also interesting as an extension is that people don't want to take responsibility. So what they will do is give that responsibility to someone else.
Mm.
They will say, all right, we don't understand this social media stuff, or we don't know about product planning, or we can't do marketing, so therefore we need to bring in the most expensive expert that we can possibly afford, right?
Mhm.
Even if we don't really truthfully have the budget for it.
Yep.
And we're just going to give it to them, give all the responsibility. We don't even want the dialogue. We just want the pitch. We want to see that they're polished, that they've got some level of credibility. We don't
Mhm.
want to humanize it. Just we need faith. We need hope and faith that they are the experts and they're going to deliver and provide us a solution. And I think this is why a lot of um, early stage startups founders, they will have a super mega polished website,
Mm.
right? They'll have the social media manager who will give them the precise strategic display of push marketing, like all of these messages to publish. There's no actual intuition that goes into that. There's no personality except what the social
Mhm.
media person's personality is. There's no brand, there's no genuine authentic. We've touched on that as well in the past days. It's all about authenticity.
Mhm.
So I think people make a mistake of handing over too much responsibility because they're too scared to take responsibility for themselves. I do recognize that, and it's a tricky game to play because you can't also be so arrogant that you think you know everything and
Sure.
you should just go on Twitter and talk like you do with your best buddy and expect that to actually build traction and success. There's some level of balance that you got to find.
Yeah, well, as you were talking about that too, I kept thinking in terms of that, kind of, uh, offloading of responsibility. I think that's sometimes why people will talk something to death, and they get the whole team involved, and, it's all about, like, "Hey, well, if I talked about it with everybody, um, then, I'm not gonna get as much shit if it goes south." Because it's like, I threw everybody in the frame. Your ghost. There he is. I circulated it with the entire team. It was everybody's decision, right? And that kind of thing. Like, we work in a real life DAO, right? Like, we work in a this fully decentralized organization and team. And one of the things in DAOs that can be challenging is saying, where does the decision lie? Right? Because you can't put everything to a vote or you'd never get anything. Speaking of, getting anything done, it would be ridiculous. You couldn't get anything done. So there has to be people that are given responsibility by the DAO, whether that's in their roles or however you want to do it. In our case, it tends to be kind of role focused and circle focused, but you know, someone has to make that decision and they have to own it. And circulating it with the entire team doesn't mean you don't still own it, right? It doesn't mean you can offload the responsibility because you hired an expert, like you're saying, right? That's great. And there's a time and a place to do that. I'd say in many cases, I'll see startup founders not do that so much because they can't afford it. But I've always encouraged them to say, listen, it doesn't always have to be in the form of this like expensive consulting engagement. What about mentors? What about advisors, right? Get people like that to help you. But at the same time, you will still own the decision and it has to be you in it because there's another thing about the mistakes that you can make that you can rob yourself of, which is the lesson, right? Which is the learning in it. And if you don't make it really, you know what I mean? You don't learn anything when your expert makes a mistake, except maybe don't trust that expert. But you weren't in it. It often got executed at arm's length from you. You're vaguely aware of the scenario and the situation, but you didn't actually do it. So I don't know, but it's
Yeah,
about taking action and it's about accountability for sure.
yeah. And part of the attitude there, I believe, is about again not being a perfectionist, not the analysis paralysis, but seeing everything as an experiment. It's a learning curve. And again, it's like almost obvious, but we need to keep hearing it from each other and ourselves to
Yeah.
remind ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It is a learning curve. You can experiment as long as you're approaching things with, in my mind, curiosity. It's like I don't know what to call my new Twitter account or what to call this new guide or what to put on the landing page to generate the leads or what features to put in the product, but I can have a hypothesis, and that gives me something that's relatively tangible. It might be an idea, but it's a tangible idea because, like, I've documented it, or I know how to describe it, and then I'm going to go and have conversations about it with other people and refine and advance based on the experiment. And you can get very
Mhm.
sophisticated with that. Document the hypothesis, um, the assumption, the question mark, the doubt that you've got, the approach, how many different options you want to take, and then you can get into budgeting and like deciding what it's worth, what this the effort of the research is going to be for the payback that you're going to get, and you can like make these things completely or sophisticated, but just start somewhere and think from where you are, what is the learning curve? What is the question that you have? And
Mhm.
how might you go about digging in and then taking the next step? It's amazing how the simple things, like we can get caught up in the moment or caught up in a project, and we see it all the time with other people. They can be overly biased. They're scared of making a commitment to a step that is just because they don't think of it as a learning step, I guess.
Right.
Right? They think I have to get it right, otherwise it's not going to be good or whatever. So it softens the blow and it makes a better culture if people aren't feeling judged for owning the result.
I was thinking, um, while you were doing that, saying, what is it? What can you point to? Like if I said, "Hey, Gav, what's the biggest mistake you've ever made in business?" What comes to mind?
Mm,
'Cause I was trying to think about that to myself, and I think to the point we were making earlier, I don't there really aren't that many. I could think of a couple things. One of them was being too trusting of business partners and not dotting I's and crossing T's enough. Um, that can happen. You got to be very mindful of, you know, who owns accounts and who has access to accounts, bank accounts, especially things like that. Right. So I got burned doing that once, for sure. And it was in a contract. I didn't catch it. My lawyer didn't catch it and cost me $250,000 in the end. Um,
Yeah.
but, you know, I mean, that was an oversight. I don't know. What do you
I
think?
think
What comes
I
to
think
mind?
well, yeah, I think what comes to mind is not hiring fast enough. I think that's probably happened to me a couple of times. I've been in situations where I've needed people and I've been a little bit, I think I judge myself as being too slow to actually grow the team and therefore taking on too much for myself, not being able to do it all with quality and losing opportunity. I think that's definitely something, if something happens once, then maybe, well, there's not much of a pattern there, but I can definitely think of 2 times at least where I've done that. So that's something for me to reflect on or learn from.
Well, that's interesting. I bet, that a lot of entrepreneurs run into that for so many reasons, right? I mean, normally, when you're starting out, you don't have a lot of capital, right? Or it's possibly your capital or friends and family. And if you're trying to be prudent about your spending, right? You really, for most companies, the most important expense is going to be people, right? It's going to be payroll. Unless you're in an industry that requires some really expensive piece of equipment or something that you need to acquire. What do they say? On average, I think it's about 60%. Don't shoot me if I'm off, but I know it's something like that. It's almost always at least half of your, expenses in a business are going to be people. And early on, right, when you don't have much of a budget, but I can relate to that. I went 3 years in my acupuncture practice doing everything myself, answering the phones, filling out the insurance billing, everything in the office, washing sheets, right? I finally got to a position where I could hire someone and my business like went up 5x in the next year. The patients were there. That's what I learned, right? I just couldn't get them. I needed help, you know? I couldn't know how much
Right.
it cost me.
And I think that makes me think of my other big mistake in business is not to pitch myself enough, not to
Yeah,
put myself out there. And that's back to the point that we were making before of analysis paralysis and perfectionism and just not
mhm,
taking that step. Just press the record button, press the send button, send someone a message, invite
right.
those people. And to an extent, I'm still learning that. It's
Mhm,
interesting. Um, it's like you think, well, I've just got to get a few more ducks lined up in a row. And
right.
again, it's finding that balance. It's finding that balance. But definitely, I think taking more action, just putting yourself out there more is probably quite a big one that I can pin some limitation on as well.
No, I think that's important. And, it's uh, selling yourself, that's what also comes to mind. A lot of people struggle with that. I struggle with that. I could sell the living shit out of you. I'll be like, oh my God, Gav, you wouldn't believe this guy. His marketing acumen, his professionalism, his work ethic. Couldn't say enough. I sold the crap out of you to Haifa when you were first joining the team. Like, oh my God, I can't believe we're getting Gav. This is fucking amazing. It's true. It's 100% true because I think so highly of you. And, but yeah, right. It's how do you find that, um, for yourself? And unfortunately, the people who are usually best at it are the ones who are kind of full of shit and probably
No,
not as good as they think, right? I mean, unfortunately,
yeah,
those
I
guys get a
agree.
lot of deals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they keep it simple. Because they
Yep.
keep it simple. That's what it is.
Yep.
That is it.
Just go and ask for it, right? You can only hear no.
Yeah.
But you're not going to hear anything if you don't do it at all. Yeah. I mean, just thinking about getting the, I don't want to beat this into the ground, but, getting to this point doing this, I was telling my girlfriend yesterday, like how fun this is and how excited I am about it. And I have a lot of other shit swirling right now between, we've got product launching at the one company that we work for, Haifa, and then some other stuff I'm a part of, and I'm trying to hustle and get things going and learn AI, but I've wanted to do this for so long, for
Mhm.
so long. And to finally be doing it just feels so great. I don't know. I don't know what this is going to turn into, right? This might be you and I just talking on video for, you know, 10,000 hours over the next however many years, but it's the process, right? There's something to this. It's a little different, right? We're not talking to each other the same way we would on a regular Zoom. I mean, I don't think we're being inauthentic. We're not playing roles. We're not playing characters, but it's like it forces you to concentrate and focus. That's my experience so far.
Yeah.
Right? It really focuses me to say, hey, listen, you can't just bullshit. All right. People don't want to listen to you just bullshit. Like you gotta stay. And I find myself thinking, I have to listen. Right. I have to really actively listen and be like, what's Gav talking about? Not just like, looking in
Mhm.
the corner and stuff. So
Mhm.
I think there's benefits, right? There's benefits right there. The confidence of having done it and all that. Um, I've been thinking a lot about AI and video and how that all plays. Like earlier today, and I know I'm the AI guy. I'm probably going to talk about AI all the time because I'm obsessed. But there's a plugin for ChatGPT. It's called Video Insights, I think. Let me get this right. So if people do care and are watching this, yeah, it's called videoinsights.io. And you get a certain amount of this free, by the way. No plug. We're not sponsored by anything. Believe me, at this stage. But all you have to do is put in, what I want to learn about, this from this video. What did I write specifically?
Well, I tell you what, we're gonna have to make a strong cliffhanger for tomorrow's session and just pick right up because I've been in the pull up all day. I don't have my charger and I got 1%
Uh-oh.
battery on my laptop. So
Okay. So we're
I'm
pulling it
about
out.
to die. Yeah.